Good morning, Husker fans. Welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me, as always, is Danny Gillette. And today we're going to look ahead to the UCLA matchup with Nebraska on Saturday, where we're going to offer up some keys, some bold predictions, a prediction against the spread. We'll look at the offense, the defense, kind of break down that matchup. We've also got a ton of recruiting news going on for the Huskers right now. They got a new commitment this week in the 2027 class, and Tay Ellis, some other positive buzz. So we're going to break that down. Look ahead to UCLA and get you set for this week as a Nebraska football fan. So before we get into it, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and get into the comments section. And Danny, how are you on this Thursday morning?
I'm doing pretty good. Like you said, getting ready for UCLA. Like we talked off air, kind of hard to get up for this game, but still excited to see what this group can do. And as you mentioned in the rundown, tons of news going on anyway. So plenty of stuff to keep us busy, even if football is a little bit down right now.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have Nebraska. I think if they beat USC, they probably would have been included in the rankings on Tuesday night. That's my hunch. I think they would have taken USC's spot in those rankings. I'm not sure where they probably would have been, like maybe 25 or 24. They probably would be where Washington is right now. But it still would be nice to be in that conversation. And like I said on Monday, it's kind of disappointing that we aren't right now. I mean, we see Iowa there, and to be nice to be one of those teams, but still, I think a chance for Nebraska to get some positive momentum. I mean, we talked about the other day, and maybe we mentioned it on air, it could be off air, but we talked about it would be nice to see Nebraska have a season kind of like Illinois had last year, and they still could do that. They still could have a season like that. They probably need to win out, to get to like the Citrus Bowl or whatever, but you look at these games and it's definitely possible. I mean, UCLA, there's some definite weaknesses there. I really think this is a winnable game for Nebraska. I haven't even looked at Penn State that much, but they haven't beaten anybody in the Big Ten. So, these two games very winnable. And then, you win these two games and you got Iowa is always a huge game. So yeah, I feel like there is, the more I've thought about it, I do think there are things to play for. That's probably just me being more optimistic as the week goes on. It's still disappointing that they didn't make the playoff, but or not that they didn't make the playoff, but aren't in the conversation. I thought that they should have been in the conversation this year, at least longer. So that is disappointing that we're already, knocked out of it. But I do think that they, can achieve some progress. Getting to 8 wins and beating Iowa, like I said at the start of the year, I think would be a successful season.
And I'm really interested to see what this offense looks like with TJ Lateef, because Dylan Raiola is a great quarterback. I'm not cheering for the injury like some of the fake fans have been. I'm not happy, but I think that when you look at the Houston Christian game, for example, and yes, it's Houston Christian, I know. When you saw the type of offense that Holgorsen ran when TJ Lateef was in, as opposed to when Dylan Raiola was in, there was a lot more short passing game, quarterback runs, kind of looked similar to his offense at Houston. And so I think in terms of just skill set as it relates to this type of offense, I think Lateef might actually be a slightly better fit for what Holgorsen wants to do. So I'm curious to see what they'll kind of, bring out with a full week of practice under the belt.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they, do things and kind of set things up with Lateef. I think one thing I wrote in, kind of my first look at this UCLA game is that they need to make things as easy for him as possible. Easy reads, 1 or 2 reads, let him make quick decisions, easy throws. Let's not, try to have him drop back and, sit there and read the entire defense and try to make a decision while his protection's, falling apart. He needs to be quick. He needs to get the ball out of his hands. But I do think they need to embrace his running ability a little bit. They have the zone reads. They've got the RPO stuff in there. And I'm sure UCLA is probably going to, bring some pressure and see what he can do. I mean, I feel like when you look at their pass rush, you look at this UCLA team, they don't rush the quarterback at all. They have 6 sacks this year. That's it. So, I mean, if you talk about, matchups, like a good matchup for Nebraska, I think this UCLA team is that. 6 sacks. They do have, like 20 some tackles for loss. So they do make some plays in the backfield, but they've only got 3 interceptions. So coming into a game with a freshman quarterback against a defense that is averaging less than a sack per game, and they're only taking the ball away once per game. So I feel like there's some positive things about that. They also allow 195 rushing yards per game. So like this really should be a game where Emmett Johnson can kind of control the tempo and run the football. And that's another way right? The running game is the best friend of a quarterback. And a young quarterback especially. So I feel like we're going to see a pretty similar game plan that we've seen the past 2 weeks. Heavy run, probably 60% run, and then a lot of quick hitters with TJ Lateef trying to take advantage of his athleticism. But the one thing though, he does have arm talent. Like there's no question he's got the talent to make these throws. So that's kind of one thing. It's if you were playing Gramstad, then it's the offense would be a little bit limited because he just doesn't have that same ability where Lateef does. I'm not saying he's as accurate or as poised as Raiola right now, but he can make the throw. So I would like to see him test this defense out a little bit, especially maybe with some play action. But yeah, if they can, I think the key for this entire game for Nebraska is being able to run the football.
Yeah, being able to run the football and also like you said, playing the quick game with TJ Lateef in terms of throws. Allow him to run because that's one of the things he does best, but also don't make things overly complicated to the point where he really has to struggle. And with the injuries to the offensive line, Pritchard, I believe, was back at practice on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Gatula's out for the season. It's not really an ideal situation for a young quarterback to come into. And so, the simpler and the easier for Lateef, the better. And honestly, you mentioned a lot to play for. A lot of these guys, in my opinion, these next couple of games are not only a chance to win and continue to build, but also auditions for a lot of them for next year.
Yeah, a lot of there'll be some open spots available, especially on the offensive line. There it sounds like it'll be Turner Corcoran again this week at right tackle. I really wish that they would play somebody else. I mean, it just seems like give Tamua or Grant Bricks or somebody a chance to show what they can do. But I mean, if he's who they feel is their best guy, then I guess that's who they should go with. But yeah, I mean, you look at this UCLA team. It would be interesting to see if they get some of these other guys like Isaiah Mosey or Nelson, if they give them more opportunities this week. I know it's tough with the way Emmett's been running the ball to give anybody else a chance, but I just feel like there's a lot of opportunity to run the ball in this game. So we'll see how that kind of works out. Defensively, I also think this is not a great matchup for Nebraska, but I think it's okay. The thing that really worries me about UCLA is obviously Nico Amiavela's ability to run the ball. I'll probably pronounced his name wrong, but
No, I think that's right. I think he did well.
I'm going to call him Nico from here on out. Now that we got
Yeah.
but he's played pretty well. You look at him as a passer though. 63% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 183 yards per game. So he's only had 3 games where he's thrown the ball for over 200 yards, and they've lost 2 of them. So for the most part, when they're winning games, it's with him, running the football, and he's their leading rusher. He's their leader in attempts. He's their leader in yards. He's their leader in rushing touchdowns. Besides him, their second leading rusher is Jalen Berger. You'll remember him. He played for Wisconsin for a while, I think, maybe even Michigan State. So he's okay. He's averaging 4.2 yards per carry. He's got 59 attempts. Their other running back has 60 attempts. So they've got a couple of guys. But like Berger had 5 carries for 17 yards against Indiana. This other back, Javian Thomas, had 7 carries for 12 yards. So like they've done some stuff, but there's nothing really a ton to worry about there. But Nico's the guy that you really have to worry about, especially with him running the ball. 128 yards against Penn State. He had 65 against Northwestern. Only 3 against in their win over Michigan State, 25 in their win over Maryland. So they can win without him running the ball, but I feel like if UCLA is going to win this game, it's going to be very similar to that Penn State game where Nico has like over 100 yards rushing. I think that's their formula, and that's how Nebraska has to stop this team. I mean, you look at Sorsby, Brandon Sorsby beat Nebraska with his legs. Childs had a couple touchdown runs. Underwood had a touchdown run. So it has been a weakness of Nebraska, and I would expect UCLA to attack it heavily.
Well, just the run defense total has been a weakness for Nebraska this season, and I thought they did a little bit better with Childs. I know he scored the touchdown and stuff like that. Sorsby, they did okay, but they are going to have to pay attention to Nico's running ability and his dual threat ability, and If they can limit him to either running or passing, then I think that's a victory. Allowing him to do both is not ideal. And this Nebraska defense has shown to be very good against the pass. It's just the run that really worries me.
Yeah, and this UCLA team isn't one that has a ton of dynamic athletes. Titus Mokiao Atamalia. Hopefully that's somewhat correct.
You're good.
Anyways, he had 6 for 102 against Maryland. He's like their leading receiver, or their second leading receiver. Quasi Gilmer is their leading receiver, and he's had over 50 yards in 3 of his last 5 games. But only 345 yards on the season, or 382, excuse me. They don't have anybody that averages over 13 yards of reception, so not a lot of explosiveness in this offense, and that's kind of measured in they're scoring 20 points a game, so they're 117th in scoring, 114th in defense. They're giving up 31 points a game. They have played better though. Let's give them credit because they, not only did they beat Penn State, beat Michigan State 38-13 on the road, and then they beat Maryland 20-17 at home. So they have played well. Indiana blew their doors off, but I mean that's
Indiana's
everybody.
blowing everybody's doors off, yeah.
And so they've had a bye week. US. It's weird to play a team. This is 2 weeks in a row now. Nebraska's playing a team coming off a bye week, which I mean is interesting. It's not probably an advantage for UCLA. I mean, being rested, but also getting a chance to, prepare for the film a little bit. I do like their offensive coordinator. It's Rick Neuheisel's son. I can't remember his name, but he's done a really good job.
Right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, they had him lifted up, and they were like trying to carry him off the field after the win over Penn State. So it's kind of been a fun turnaround. Yeah, Jerry. So we'll see. I mean, him and John Butler will be going at it. I think this Nebraska pass defense is really going to give UCLA trouble. So yeah, I feel like it's just going to come down to Nico, and if they can stop the run, make it one dimensional, I feel like UCLA is going to have a tough time scoring. But he's also an X factor, so I'm not sure, but I feel like in a lot of ways this defensively is going to feel like the Cincinnati game.
I mean, I hope the result is the same as the Cincinnati game, but no, Jerry Neuheisel. I was just doing some research on him here. He started as a quality control coach at Texas A&M, and then he was a graduate assistant at UCLA beginning in 2018. Most recently, he was the associate head coach and tight ends coach, and then he moved to offensive coordinator, and he's only 3 years older than me, so it makes me feel a little bit lazy, but that's okay. And I think he's one of the great young minds in college football, so it'll be interesting to see how like you said, the John Butler Jerry Neuheisel matchup plays out, because I think the younger Neuheisel has a very bright future.
And then special teams, I think that's going to be, if you're looking, you have a young quarterback, well, what's one way that you can help him out? We talked about the running game, getting good field position, nice return from Kenneth Williams or Ja'Cory Barney, just, trying to make things, like I said, as easy as possible for TJ Lateef. And so having some success in the kicking game, but definitely winning the field position battle, I think is going to be important for Nebraska. Just all those little things that they can do, right? Like everybody has to support the quarterback, like the coach and Matt Rule and Holgerson said, like everybody needs to bring their game this week. So that's special teams is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, and Dane Key mentioned it too, so it's really great to see everybody rally around the young quarterback, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Again, I'm not happy for the injury or whatever, but I am excited to see what he can bring to this offense. And I will just say, everybody's favorite quarterback is a second-string quarterback until the second-string quarterback takes the field. So now we're gonna see where the second-string quarterback lies, and what he can do, and kind of a preview, I think, of the post Raiola era, whenever that may happen.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen some guys play early and do some good things. I mean, Bryce Underwood at Michigan, Malik Washington, Damon Williams played well at the end of last season, for the Washington Huskies, and has played well this year. So I mean, their teams have found a way to do it. And the kid, like you said, he's got the talent. He's an Elite 11 quarterback. So it will be good to see that. And I think there's still a chance that Raiola could be leaving after next season. I mean, we'll see. He might be a 4-year quarterback, but and it might be hard to keep TJ for that long. Who knows? But I do think
Yeah.
the quarterback room is still looking good, and I think until he leaves, you still are under the assumption that Dylan's going to be your guy and TJ's going to be the heir apparent, and then Trey Taylor can take over for him. So I mean, like that's the ideal scenario for Nebraska, in my opinion. Now, is it going to work out like that? Probably not. I mean, it could, but it very easily could not too. So because I mean, if TJ Lateef, because here's the downside: what if he comes out and balls out in these next 3 games? You know what I mean? Then he's like, well, maybe I could go start for somebody else next year. So like it's kind of a tough situation because it's not like Nebraska's going to guarantee him the starting job, and
Yeah.
somebody else might. I mean, if you were, I mean, I don't even if you were Illinois or if you were, I mean, I'm trying to think of teams that are kind of without a quarterback, but I mean, if you have a guy who's playing well in the Big Ten, a Big Ten game, like he's probably going to get some real interest. I mean, hell, maybe UCLA. I mean, if Nico leaves, because who knows what he's going to do? It could be a game of musical chairs there. So it'll just be really interesting to see if TJ does play well, if Nebraska, is able to keep him in Nebraska.
The way I look at it, Chris, is that every year, every single player, it's like the NFL. It's, there's free agency, there, trades with the transfer portal. I mean, no roster is going to be the same anymore from year to year, and it's very, very hard to keep a solid quarterback room. So it will be interesting to see what Lateef does and, how that plays into his future at Nebraska. When you look at this 2027 class, I do feel confident about Trey Taylor staying and things like that. So, I mean, what are your thoughts, honestly, about Dayton Raiola and where does he fit into all this too? Because, I feel like some fans may forget that he might be part of the quarterback equation, or do you think this was just kind of a family offer? Hey, Dylan's in the program, let's add Dayton. Like, where do you see Dayton falling in all this?
I do think that that might have a little bit to do with it, but I do think that I don't think they would offer him a scholarship if they didn't think he could play at all. And I do think he's got some ability. He certainly has a strong arm. I think he's more of a developmental quarterback. So to me, that's not like a bad thing at all. Like
No.
it's kind of smart. This is a bad comparison, so don't take this the wrong way. But like Michigan, when they signed Bryce Underwood, they signed Chase Herbstreit as like a walk on, Kirk Herbstreit's kid,
I
and
was
so
gonna say, yeah. Okay.
he's a really low. I think he was like a 2 or 3 star or whatever. Because the thing is, he's never going to see the field, right? Like that's the idea. He's basically going to be the backup, and so he's just going to hang out, learn, be the backup, and then if they ever need him to play, like he could probably go in there and do it or so, But like his trajectory is never going to be the starter. And I feel like that Dylan or Dayton Raiola is kind of similar. Like they're not really, expecting him to come in and be the starter. He could be. I think he's got more talent than like a Chase Herbstreit. Like he has the upside, I think, to be a college quarterback. And so it's just a matter of, physically, can he get there? Can he get a little stronger? Can he get a little bit quicker? Can he make the decisions? So, I mean, a couple years down the road, like maybe he could be somebody that could play. But I feel like, long term, it'll be nice just to have somebody that, is probably going to stick in the room, who's probably not going to look to transfer right away if he doesn't play as a freshman. You know what I mean? So I feel like whether it's long term, kind of backup, or whether it's a guy that maybe, when he's a redshirt junior or something, maybe can start competing for the field. I know it's going to be hard for me to see him ever starting for Nebraska, but I do think that there is a remote chance just based on how it all works out.
I'm curious about Marcos Davila too. I mean, we know he has talent, but I would like to see him play just to see what he has, and I know there is talent there too, but he's another one. I'm not sure if he'll ever see the field, but I like what he brings to the table as well.
Yeah, and he was rated higher than Daniel Kalen in the same class. So that's another guy that I think that he'll probably stick it out here for a few years, and it's worth developing. It's always good to have depth in the quarterback room. I mean, Nebraska knows that as well as anybody. So it'll be interesting to see how some of those guys pan out. Like he's probably a guy that you could see leaving at some point. Going to like a group of 5 or an FCS team. Like what Smothers did or whatever. Like I don't. It's just I understand those guys wanting to play, but I also think that there's value in them, learning and kind of sitting at Nebraska too. So we'll see how it goes out. He'll be the number 3 this week, and obviously Gramstad will be the number 2, and hopefully they won't be needed. Hopefully we'll get through the rest of the season with TJ Lateef, although the offensive line has had some struggles. So who knows? Although it is worth pointing out 3 of the last 4 games, they've only allowed 1 sack. Now, that 1 sack against USC was pretty detrimental, but still, I do think that they've made progress in the protection.
Yeah, that 1 sack against USC on multiple levels was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah. I mean, part of it, too, is that's another one, too. It's like, just get rid of the ball or try to step. I don't know. He couldn't really step up. I mean, I think he tried to step up, and there was like 3 guys right there. So, I don't know. But I do think I think the play calling has allowed the protection to be better. So I think that's, after the Minnesota game, I do think that Dana Holgorsen has course corrected quite a bit.
Yeah, shout out to Dana for that, because that's not easy to do either.
Yeah, and so I think he's done a good job, and a lot of people have been critical of him. Like, I don't think the problem with Nebraska is their coordinators on any level. I think all 3 of the coordinators have done a pretty good job this year. I'm not saying they've been perfect. Like, yeah, Dana probably should have ran the ball more against Minnesota, but not every game is going to be called perfectly. You know what I mean? So I don't feel like those guys. I don't think Rule has to make any changes at the coordinator spots this offseason.
And honestly, I think even if he ran the ball every single play against Minnesota, it wouldn't have made much of a difference with that offensive line in the pass protection. So,
yeah, I mean, they just got out toughed in that game. That's just what happened. Like Minnesota, I agree. I don't think it would have. I think it would have made it look better. They wouldn't have had the 9 sacks, obviously, but they probably still wouldn't have won the game. So anyway, let's do our keys and predictions here. So what are your biggest keys for Nebraska to beat UCLA on Saturday night?
Simplify the playbook for TJ Lateef, but don't make it overly simple to where the Bruins are diagnosing every play and reading every play. And I think, just going back to what we were talking about just a couple seconds ago, Holgorsen did a good job of adjusting his playbook after the Minnesota game, so he's shown that he can make adjustments. And I think with a week of practice with TJ Lateef, hopefully they added some stuff in to make some things easy for him. When you look at, like I said, Holgorsen's old offenses, there's a lot of quarterback runs, a lot of options, a lot of things like that. So I think it does open up Holgorsen to an area where he's more comfortable than necessarily Dylan Raiola, who's more of a pocket passing quarterback. Now, I feel like there's a heavy dose of Matt Rule in this offense still. So I'm wondering how Rule will kind of help manage the offense, so to speak.
Yeah, my key is going to be getting Emmett Johnson going. Like they have to run the football to win this game. I think that's non-negotiable. I just don't see how Nebraska is going to win this game if Emmett doesn't have like 100 yards rushing. And I think just the same thing. They have to stop Nico. Like to me, the 2 biggest keys are run the ball well and stop the run. And I know that sounds really simplistic, but if they don't stop the QB run, they're going to have a hard time leaving the Rose Bowl with the win. So that's my biggest key defensively.
Well, they haven't done it all season. Well, they kind of did. I was going to say they haven't done it all season, so I start now, but they kind of did a little bit, I guess.
I thought they actually did, against Underwood. I thought they did okay. I know he scored on the draw. I mean, he scored on that one play, but other than that, he didn't have any like like where they broke. Like, I thought McCullough did a good job spying him. He tried to run a couple times. Chili's, I mean, it was kind of the same thing, and they had McCullough spying on him, and he sometimes gets a little too aggressive, or kind of going around the edge or trying to go make a play, which it's hard to blame a guy for trying to make a play. But
yeah.
Hopefully they've learned from that, because man, if they can make Nico beat them as a passer, they're going to win this game. Like, I have no question in my mind this pass defense is good enough. I think the pass rush is good enough to get there. The thing is you have to be. I think they almost have to go into this game like not trying to get sacks. Like, they need to have like one thing that Michigan did, for instance, against Damon Williams, who's been running the ball over everybody. They basically had one guy rush. They had Derek Moore rush the passer, and everybody else just stayed in their rush lanes. So it wasn't even about trying to get pressure. It was just making him stay in the pocket. And I feel like if they do that with Nico, don't worry about, like, have Williams Noweri be your pressure guy and be like, you go get the quarterback. Everybody else just contain. And you have, McCullough as your spy if needed. And I think that's it. Like, I don't think these UCLA receivers can beat our cornerbacks, and I don't think that they can line up and run the ball against us as poor as our run defense has been. Like I think that has to be done with Nico, and I think if they make him play from the pocket, I
Right.
really have a hard time seeing them score 20 points against us. I really do.
And two guys we kind of mentioned when you talked about the secondary, and then when you talked about the defensive line and the rest of the defense, Nueri and Marshall will be coming back next year. So I'm very happy about that. I'm just kind of thinking about the roster long term. And Nueri has been an absolute find. He's played, to his former 5-star ranking. He's been awesome. Marshall has been absolutely fantastic. So it gives me hope after a couple of transfer portal class struggles over the last few years. This class has really kind of made me believe in what the program wants to do in the transfer portal. And I know that was completely unrelated to what we were just talking about, but that's where my brain is going, and I'm sorry. But no, I'm just really excited about the future of this defense.
And Nguyen especially is that's one I don't really understand people criticizing like Terry Braden is look at this is a 5-star kid and um I could be mistaken, but I don't think very many people expected him to even contribute that much this year. And he's been our
I
best
I, I
pass
didn't.
rusher. I
I didn't.
mean, so I think that, yeah, I mean, the next 2 years with him, if he stays for 2 years, because he might be good enough to go next
Yeah.
year, depending on what the type of season. Because if he comes and has 10 sacks next year, which is possible. I mean, I know he only has 1.5 sacks this year, but he's had like 8 pressures in a game, so he's getting very close. And it also doesn't help, if this team had any sort of interior pass rush,
Yeah.
Neway would probably have a couple more sacks
Yeah.
because the quarterback just has to step up around him. But anyway,
And when people criticize Terry Braden, I also point to the development of Cade Petrizak. I think
yeah,
Petrizak has come along really nicely as well. And honestly, the people who criticize Terry Braden just want a quick fix and want the 85 Bears on the defense this year. The people who criticize Terry Braden really don't understand football that well, in my opinion. So there you go.
I can't disagree there. So what's your bold prediction for Saturday? Not your score prediction, but your bold prediction.
The kid from California will leave with an upset win. Happy flight home, maybe.
There you go. I'm going to say that TJ Lateef gets a rushing touchdown and has 0 turnovers. That's my bold prediction. No turnovers. And if he does that, I feel like we're going to have a pretty good chance to win this game. The spread is kind of moved around a little bit. 1.5 points in favor of UCLA. You look at the money line; it's basically a pick'em game at this point. As much as you could have a pick'em game. So yeah. So what's your pick this week? Nebraska, UCLA. Who you got?
As much as I want the upset, I feel like it's going to be another heartbreaker. So, UCLA 27, Nebraska 24.
I could see it. I definitely could see that heartbreak. We've had it so many times. I remember we went out there, I think in 2012, had a
Yep.
nice lead, blew it. It's like, it's a great scene for football. It's going to be a gorgeous night. I'm going to say Nebraska wins 23-20. I think they'll kick some field goals, probably struggle a little bit in the red zone. I think we'll run the ball well with Emmett. I think Emmett's going to have maybe his best game of the season. Like, I think this guy's going to be just like, just determined and just like sheer willpower. I think Emmett Johnson's just not going to go down. And so, yeah, I think he will lead Nebraska to win. I think TJ Lateef will make enough plays. And like I said, just take care of the football. If he does that, I think the kicking game will come through, special teams will come through, and we'll win 23-20 and get back on track after last week.
Emmett Johnson, first 1,000-yard rusher in 13 years, is it?
I believe so, yeah, because Divine
Oh,
Azigbo got it in
okay, yeah.
2018, yeah, so.
But still, a good achievement and a good referendum for EJ Barthel, too. So congrats to EJ. I want to make sure that doesn't get overshadowed in his accomplishments. He's had a great year, 1,000-yard rusher. I mean, the offensive line has been better at pass blocking, but I feel like they've been really good at run blocking for the majority of the year.
And I mean, leading rusher in the Power Four right now, so that's not something that I thought we would see out of Emmett Johnson this year. So that's been really impressive. I do want to get to quickly here before we wrap up. We had some big recruiting news this week for Nebraska, so we wanted to touch on that. Tay Ellis, the 4-star wide receiver from Texas, committed. Was that Monday? I think that was Monday.
Yep.
And so
right after our show.
yeah, right after the show. I really like him, though. He's ranked 345th overall in the 2027 class, but really a dynamic guy. He runs, had 54 passes caught for 794 yards. It's a sophomore, 14 yards per reception. He ran a 10.87 in the 100-meter dash in the spring of 2024. So really a dynamic kid, a dynamic athlete. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Ja'Cory Barney a little bit. That Cortez Mills, kind of that slight built receiver who can get down the field, but another dynamic player. And 5 recruits in this 5 commitments in this 2027 class. 4 of them are blue chips. You've got 2 blue chip receivers, a blue chip tight end, blue chip quarterback. The 5-star safety, Amir Brown, the 4-star running back, just got projected to Nebraska. So a lot of good things I think happening right now with this recruiting class.
54 catches for 663 yards and 8 touchdowns in 9 games this season for Ellis. Really, really good. Go up and get him type of receiver. He's an incredible athlete. He has that speed. So, and look, I understand it's not an offensive or defensive lineman. They're working on it, but it's a hell of a lot easier to land a talented wide receiver, than it is to land an offensive and defensive lineman. And I'm sorry, it is.
Well, it is. And the thing about too, if Nebraska is going to improve on their offensive line, like they have blue chip players. They need to develop. They need the guys that they've recruited 2 years ago to play. I mean, it takes time. Like Claude Mpuma is a blue chip guy in the 2026 class, but he's not going to be ready to play right away. It takes development. So Grant Bricks, Preston Tamua, Gibson Pyle, those guys need to step up and play. And then you talk about Malcolm Simpson and Tyson Terry in the 2025 class. Like
I'm excited for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's, Cade Petrizak. There's definitely some solid pieces on both sides of the line. Gabe Moore is another one. They do need to get some defensive tackles in the portal. And maybe a right tackle, this year in the portal too. But outside that, I think the trenches are actually not that far from being pretty decent. It's just they need some of these young pieces to develop. And yes, they need to recruit other guys, but then again, it's going to take time for them to get to that level. And that's, I mean, this is the Big Ten. Like you're not going to have freshman linemen come in and save your bacon very often.
No, and it's those two positions are such a premium position. Some people act like we're the only ones that need offensive and defensive line, and we're the only ones recruiting them. It's like the 18 other Big Ten teams, how ironic is that statement, also need an offensive and defensive line. So, I mean, it's not like we're not trying. I believe we had 10 offensive and defensive linemen combined come in on Saturday. Terry Braden's first full recruiting cycle. No, he doesn't deserve to be fired yet, so miss me with that. And it is going to take time, and I understand the frustration, especially with Raiola's injury and the poor play this season and stuff like that. But it's not like they're completely ignoring the offensive and defensive line. It's not like they don't want to recruit the position. They're trying like hell. And, I think you mentioned Gabe Moore. I think we'll see a lot more of him next year. I think we'll see a lot of Jalen George next year. Tyson Terry's on the way, like you mentioned, Malcolm Simpson. So they're coming. It's just a lot of young pieces and a lot of throw the offensive line recruiting at the wall and see if it sticks. It's tough.
And so keep an eye out for Amir Brown. Seems like he could be making a decision at any time. He's got a bunch of picks for Nebraska. And then Ahmad Hudson, nice. The 5-star tight end. It seems like Nebraska is in the lead right now. He's not going to make a decision until July, so long way to go there. The LSU head coach will make an impact. He's from Louisiana, but Nebraska, feels like they're in the pole position there. So good place to be in. And there's a lot of groundwork being laid in the 2027 class. So if you are searching for a reason to be optimistic about this program, that's one reason for you. So, all right, you guys, we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back on Saturday morning for our pregame chat with UCLA, 7 p.m. Central Time. So if you want to hang out with us before the pregame kickoff shows, we'll be going live on Facebook and YouTube. So come hang out with us Saturday morning. Get ready for what's hopefully an upset win for Nebraska. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.